this next halftime show has nothing to do with a performer at all. Matter of fact, this is a TV show. This is a sketch comedy that's in this ranking. And they changed the way we see Super Bowl halftime shows after this airing. At number 4, I have the In Living Color live Super Bowl halftime show. Now, in previous years, nobody ever wanted to go against the Super Bowl because they felt they would get killed in the ratings. They felt no one would see the shows that they were putting on. So that was the unwritten rule. You never go against the Super Bowl. You never challenge the Super Bowl. You let the Super Bowl have its day, whichever network was airing the Super Bowl. If it was CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox hadn't gotten into the NFL game yet, but you let those whatever three networks aired it, you let them have their day. You ran a lot of your stuff after the Super Bowl. But Fox, they were a young network. They had just been about almost a decade in. They were doing things different. They were trying to appeal to younger people, which NBC, ABC, and CBS hadn't done at the time. And they were very successful in reaching that demographic, starting with shows like 21 Jump Street, Married with Children. But then they started targeting, the Black American audiences who had been underserved as well. And Living Color was definitely one of the early Black shows that was a hit. Later on, it would be shows like Martin, Living Single, New York Undercover that would be a hit as well. Now, this was a major move. This was a major ballsy move here by star and creator Keenen Ivory Wayans, as well as Fox. In 1992, they decided that they were going to have a live Super Bowl halftime show, which they called the Super Bowl In Living Color Super Bowl halftime party. And on this show, it was live. They did all new skits live, as well as had a musical artist perform, which was Color Me Bad. Originally, it was supposed to be MC Hammer, but maybe he might have canceled, or maybe he couldn't make it. And they ended up getting them at the last minute. Also, one of my favorite skits came out of this live Super Bowl halftime show.
Suppose I want to watch Super Bowl action next year.
At home?
At home.
Say no more. Ooh, let's go to the widescreen.
Oh, snap. Yo, you hook this bad boy up in your living room, pop out some OE, throw in a couple of porno takes, you be the toast of the neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yo, Pee Wee Herman might even come by your pack.
Now you set them chairs out there and you have your own version of pay-per-view, and you know what that means. More money, more money, more money. Yeah, right.
But definitely remember them doing this during the halftime show of the Super Bowl. And also what made it cool was they put a timer at the bottom of the TV screen. So, excuse me. They put a timer at the bottom of the TV screen. So when between the show airing and when you could turn back to watch the second half of the Super Bowl. And Fox, Keenen Ivory Wayans, and the cast of In Living Color were very successful in accomplishing their goal, as the Super Bowl halftime show drew in between 22 to 30 million viewers. Now, in previous years, the Super Bowl halftime show mostly featured a lot of marching bands. So most people weren't watching the halftime show. most people use that time to go to the bathroom, get some snacks, to mingle, laugh, and talk. No one was paying attention to that. Matter of fact, Super Bowl 25, they had, kids performing the halftime show at the Super Bowl. But In Living Color definitely changed how we saw the Super Bowl halftime show. After that night, they saw the rate, the NFL saw the ratings, and they definitely did not want to be outdone again by In Living Color or anyone else. And the next year, they got Michael Jackson to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl. Now, I gave this ranking to the In Living Color live Super Bowl halftime show because it was revolutionary. It paved the way for how the Super Bowl halftime show should be done differently. And plus, they changed the way how we see the Super Bowl halftime show. That if it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year, you got to have one of the biggest entertainment segments of the year. You got to get a big time artist to do the Super Bowl halftime show. And no disrespect to the marching band, to the college marching bands, because they definitely have been great, and they've definitely helped a lot of Super Bowl halftime shows with a lot of these mainstream artists. But most people don't want to see marching bands because some people still have that band geek stereotype. I think it's wrong, but some people are still just closed-minded in that department. But they made the Super Bowl halftime show such a cool thing. And it had so much swag with the skits, the music, the timer. You felt like you were at a real Super Bowl party. Because that's how some of the Super Bowl parties I've either been to or have been. It's just fun where people just get together, eating, cracking jokes, laughing, talking, watching the game, watching the halftime show, watching the halftime shows now. And I remember watching that live halftime show that night. I remember just laughing at all the skits with the Homeboy Shopping Network, Fire Marshal Bill, and Jim Carrey doing the background guy. Man, the way he, stood on his head, doing all those, moves while David Allen Greer, Jamie Foxx were playing the reporter and football player. Man, Jim Carrey really stole the show with that skit. And it definitely needs to be held up in relevance more, because if it wasn't for Living Color's live halftime show, we wouldn't have the Super Bowl halftime show that we have today. And ever since then, it's been a lot of memories created. And we've had major artists we mentioned Michael Jackson, of course, but we've had Usher, Rihanna, just mentioned Kendrick Lamar, Bruno Mars, Beyonce, as well as some legendary artists such as the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen. All of them have performed at the halftime show for the Super Bowl. And Living Color, they definitely led the charge in that. So definitely got to give a major shout out to Keenan Ivory Wayans and that whole cast for really definitely paving the way for the Super Bowl halftime show to be what it is today.